Hi, I'm Dick Bolles. I'm the author of What Color is Your Parachute? A Practical Manual for Job Hunters and Career Changers. And my last name is spelled B-O-L-L-E-S. This is my pal, Matthew Cross, C-R-O-S-S. He is the president of Leadership Alliance and author of numerous books, among which is
The Hoshin Success Compass.
And what's that about?
Well, the Hoshin Success Compass is a workbook, and it's designed to provide a vehicle, an opportunity for an individual to discover and tap into their talents, their genius, and create a plan to align their gifts with their destiny, in a sense, their highest potential.
If you're successful, what do? You conduct workshops for companies or something like that?
Absolutely, Dick. Yeah, the process was born from my work with the Deming principles, the Deming quality principles.
Who is Deming?
Dr. Deming is the genius, the Einstein of quality and success, who transformed Japan after the war, and whose philosophy and methodologies and this process, which he inspired, is guiding great companies like Toyota and Honda and Procter & Gamble. Mm-hmm. And I distilled this master strategic planning system, the Japanese call Hoshin, H-O-S-H-I-N, and in Japanese it means inner compass, compass system, GPS system that we all possess inside of us. Teams possess it, companies possess it. They defined this system inspired by Dr. Deming to help people and teams and companies align their talents, their genius with their highest potential. So that's what the book is.
If you are successful in your workshops, which you certainly are, how do you measure the outcome? What's different about their lives after you've had a chance to teach them this?
Oh, that's a great question, Doug. What's different, we hear again and again and again, is a greater sense of confidence, of connection with people's talents and gifts, increases in success in all measure, financial, health, connection with family, connection in their network, real expansion and growth, and an increase in quality of life across the board is really the heart and spirit of this work, as I know it is as a shared element of our
Well, that's what's interesting to me. We have come out of very different sources. We do very different things with the people we work with. You work primarily with corporations or companies. I work primarily with individuals, mostly through my books and videos and things like that. But we seem to get to the same place with clients, even though we take different paths to get there.
Yes.
That's what struck me, as you and I have had innumerable conversations about our work. Sounds very different from looking at one person's strategies to looking at the other, and yet we're both trying to do essentially the same thing, which I would summarize as we're trying to help them find some goal they're trying to move toward with their life, and then we're trying to show them how they can move more smoothly toward that goal without having so many interruptions or side paths and so on.
Yes.
Would you agree with that?
Yes, absolutely. And the beauty and the philosophy of this Hoshin process, again, inner compass guidance system, and lining it up with the star, your North Star, your higher potential, the place you're meant to be, and the journey to get there being one that's more fulfilling and smooth with the wind at your back is really the whole spirit of this process.
Yeah.
So the power of it is that it's a process of self-discovery, self-reflection. The theory and philosophy really is that the answers do lie within. But oftentimes we're so close to both the opportunities and the challenges in our lives that we don't really have the opportunity to take stock, step back, and get that perspective.
Now, you say alignment. Alignment of what?
Oh, alignment of our gifts, our talents, our genius with a plan, with a process, a vehicle to bring it together so that we have that reduction in drag, that increase in lift, alignment with our life energy, our alignment with our inborn gifts. And when those things come together, everything starts to fall into place, and we have a sense of all is right in the world and all is becoming. It's really a process for Kaizen, or continuous improvement as the Japanese call it, and breakthrough. And so those two things coming together, the whole idea is like a laser beam, that when the light is coherent, the laser can travel far. When the light is scattered, it might light today, but it doesn't necessarily give us that navigational direction, that sense of confidence that we can get there.
Yeah. One thing that strikes me is I work with individuals, and what I try to do is to help them to become aware of the communities that they are members of. You work with communities, and you try to help them become aware of their individuality as it contributes to the whole. So you're moving from community to individual, I'm moving from individual to community, but we end up in the same place. Namely, that they need to have a sense that they're serving, their life is serving something larger than themselves. Do you focus on how they can help the company realize its goals, or how they can realize their own individual goals for their life?
It's a great question, Dick, and it's really a process of both and. The Hoshin Process was originally created in the 1960s by the Japanese to take the leaders, the top executive teams of their companies, and line them up so that the leaders were all on the same page. Clear identification and working on the right things in the right order to support the aim of the whole. That being said, Dr. Deming's entire philosophy is about personal transformation is the seed of greatness. And so it's about restoring that on the individual level and restoring it on the team and the company level. What I did that's unique in this workbook is it's the first book in history, really, that distills the Hoshin process down for individual application. Mm-hmm. The actual process, I learned it initially as it was intended, which is for teams. And then I had a day of epiphany where I led myself through the process. I had an unexpected day. I was about to lead a Fortune 500 team through the process and had a day as a gift in Hawaii years ago. And I took that day and led myself through the process. And it was transformational. Mm-hmm. It was an epiphany that led me to this moment, to this conversation. That then led to workshops with people. It actually started where I had workshops working with individuals to help them get aligned. And then the impact that it had with individuals led to invitations to lead it with teams and with companies. And that's where I've really put my focus in recent years. But it's a both-and process. It'll help an individual, it'll help a team, it'll help a company.
Well, you used an interesting word. You said transformational. And that is one of the things you and I have in common.
Yes.
Because people write me all the time when they use my book, sold 10 million copies so far, and they say, this book transformed my life. And I ask them, how did it transform your life? And they point to the sentence on page 151 or 276, and they say, that sentence transformed my life.
Yes.
And often what it is the whole self is gathered, ready for a change.
Yes.
And it just needs a little push. One sentence sometimes can do it, but I didn't write it to be a transformational person or a motivational speaker or anything like that. I simply wrote it to help people who are hanging on the ropes, trying to get out of unemployment or trying to make a career change. And then they started to use the word transformational.
Yes.
And when I've known about your work, I hear the same word being used again and again after people come out of your workshops. We try to help people with particular problems or tasks, and yet we end up discovering that you and I, though we have very different paths, we're actually achieving the same goal. People feel like this didn't just give me more learning in my head, this actually transformed my life.
Yes, yes.
Would you agree?
I would agree fully, and I'd further point out as far as the commonalities, is that fundamentally it's all about priorities. Mm-hmm. And people, whether they're looking for a job, whether they're looking for a higher purpose in life, a sense of higher purpose, greater quality, greater balance, we're all juggling priorities. We're juggling family, health, work and career, etc. And when those priorities are not in the proper position for the individual, then we feel a sense of hopelessness, perhaps, of being lost, of being, where do I turn next? We invest energy and money here, and then we try and do it here. And the priorities tend to cause, when they're not together, they don't cross-reinforce and strengthen the whole. And in Parachute, you've got wonderful tools to help the individual step back and get a clear perception on what the priorities ought to be for themselves. And in the Hoshin, it's the same thing. Yeah. It's a vehicle for helping put the priorities in alignment. So they support the whole.
Yeah. We started out thinking we were doing very different things when you and I first met, which is in 2000.
Yes. And
it was kind of remarkable to me to discover we were doing the same thing. I think we ought to have these conversations again.
I do too. Super. Thank you, Dick.